Hello and welcome. It's Francis here. Thank you for coming back to my channel. If it is your first time here, I bid thee welcome. There is a subscribe button below if you would like to help support my channel by subscribing. Also a bell to be notified as to when I upload more content. I'm coming to you from Ghana country, and as such I acknowledge the Ghana people of the Adelaide Plains as being the traditional custodians of this land upon which I reside. So firstly, I would just like to say thank you for everyone who has subscribed to my little channel. I think I've now hit over the 600 mark. I know it's not much compared with some people, but I'm very happy with that. And I do have some upcoming events over the next couple of weeks and months that I'm hoping to sort of release this year. One in particular is the Magic in You sort of interviews or podcasts. I don't know what you call podcasts with magical practitioners all around the world. Just a little discussion as to finding out some of their interests and a little bit more about them, like how they got started, their own personal influences, and what advice they may have for anybody wanting to sort of step into the magical arena. But this video in itself is just some thoughts that I've had over the last few days, or this week actually, because we're into over a fortnight now into this new year, and I'm still processing, I guess, the thoughts that have emerged from my experience for New Year's, where I was out in the vastness of the great Australian Central Desert. And many of these thoughts seem to focus around the, I suppose, minuteness of humanity within the greatest scheme of things. And another thought or train of thoughts that have been sort of circulating in my mind is the resilience of the Aboriginal people, especially the Agnew people who have lived out in the Central Desert, in this seemingly desolated landscape for many thousands of years, developing their own unique laws and customs. And this extends, I guess, to other Aboriginal peoples and countries and groups as well, because there is still this rather erroneous belief that the more superior Western way that's really been forced upon these people for the last 250, 70 years has been seen as progress. And I did come across someone else's video that I'm in the process of compiling my thoughts. I want to do a response to it regarding to how, especially from a Western mindset, we view almost incorrectly advancements in, say, humanity basing from our own Eurocentric idealisms, especially when these are projected then onto groups of people such as the Australian Aborigines. And this comes back to when Australia itself as a continent separated. But as I said, I'm still sort of gathering my thoughts. I'm in the process of reading this interesting book that I picked up at the airport at Uluru when I was out there. And it's about all the archaeological digs and the problems that they've had, and especially when it comes to dating, and not to mention cultural laws and other bits and pieces. So if this is something that you are interested in or curious about, stay tuned, because I'm hoping probably in the next month to have sort of collated my thoughts and just share something on that. Now, my next sort of topic or thing that I just want to hit on is the wildfires around Los Angeles. I understand that now they're sort of being contained a little bit, but as my heart goes out to the people involved, the loss of lives and also of animals, because such devastation, I think a lot of Australians are sort of being triggered as to basically the time period not so long ago from, I think it was just before COVID, to September 2019 to about March 2020, when almost a third of Australia was burning. And yes, what lessons have we learnt? What lessons have the West learnt? Especially when it comes to adopting more, again, this ties into what I was saying before, Indigenous practices of land management. I know in certain parts of Australia, this is taking this on board, but we've had these two in more recent time, modern fiery cataclysms, not to mention the unprecedented destructive hurricane season that the US has just gone through, the devastating floods that have occurred in other parts of the world. Also, parts of Britain is being in the grips of really severe freezing temperatures and much more. And all these things tend to highlight, at least for me, just how much out of alignment with our planet, with nature, we as a species, humanity as a collective, have become. And then again, maybe this is part of the greater cycle, the sort of ebbing and flowing, the rising and falling that we have been overlooking. And I say that because like the ancient Egyptians referred to a time known as the Tepi, the beginning of creation. It's been interpreted to. That sort of documented maybe after, or the time period after another great cataclysm, that of the Great Flood, that has been recorded all around the world in various stories and myths and artwork and culture. And then within the yogi traditions, there is mentioned of us either entering or exiting what they call a time period of Kali Yoga. This is one of the more or the greater destructive periods in order for the new to emerge. The Mayans also had their calendar of all the different ages and stages, and then there is the astronomical concept of the precession of the equinoxes, which is based on the constellation in which the sun rises on the vernal equinox, the spring equinox, in the northern hemisphere. And this takes some 72 years for the sun to move 1 degree. So this gradual shift in the Earth's orientation, especially along its axis to the North Star, has been estimated to take, I think it's 26,000 years to complete one cycle. And this is something that's been documented by the ancient Egyptians, also Sumerians, Babylonians, and I think even the Greeks were influenced by these earlier cultures, and they were also talking about it. So during times of great adversity, when I guess this is the time when we tend to focus on much needed soul searching, as our logical self seems to seek answers. And while we continue to argue with the validity of climate change, and one thing we need to do is to take responsibility for our actions. And it is these that I personally believe have actually contributed to the state that we find ourselves in today. The speed of this deforestation, especially in the Amazon, which when I was growing up, we were taught that the Amazons are the lungs to our planet. Not to mention, even in our cities now with the urban sprawl, there's a lack of green spaces, of natural environments, as our concrete jungles become more and more dense. There is the diminishing of our connection with nature as our homes, our cars, our workspaces are all artificially monitored, air conditioned. Some people have their air conditioning on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all year round, modulating the temperature. And this continual disconnect is increasingly being felt, I believe, on an inner cellular level as well, even if we're not consciously aware of it. And as we attempt to sort of navigate these increasingly outward difficult times, more and more we are drawn inward, or we should be drawn inward. The reassessment of what is truly important to us, the push now for minimalization, especially in a world with increasing consumerism and waste. And we need to take, or actively take, more responsibility for our actions, choose more consciously, not only within our own immediate environment, but also globally. And this is something, coming back to what I mentioned earlier, that the Indigenous peoples of our lands have long been advising us, that we are part of this cosmic web, that our actions have wider consequences. And as energetic beings, what is placed into the electromagnetic field, the torus field, that not only surrounds the earth, our planet, our home, but which we are also connected to through our heart center. And when we begin to take more responsibility for ourselves, we soon realize that we are also able to shape the world around us. And this is because reality follows our thoughts, as within, so without. When we come back to ourselves, back to our heart center, back to Anahata, and focus on, this is something that I've mentioned, and the astrological updates that I do, when we focus on our heart center and focus on unconditional universal love, we've got then something to project out that's beneficial for everything and everyone. And this may sound a little bit sort of far-fetched or woo-woo to some people, but I'm going to put a challenge out there and suggest that we all try this for a week and see where you are at energetically, emotionally, mentally, a week from today. And it's just a simple little task, only going to take you like about 5 minutes of that each morning. And that's the first thing that you wake up, before you jump out of bed, just put your hands on your heart, middle of your chest, and just focus for a few seconds, half a minute on the whole concept of love, connecting in with the divine, however you perceive it, God, Goddess, higher consciousness, higher aspect of self, ancestors, whatever. Just take a couple of breaths and connect in with that concept of unconditional love. If you are time poor, the alarm goes off, you have to jump out and get into the shower. In the shower, just take a moment as the water's cascading over you. just to focus on your heart center and the concept of unconditional love. You might want to sort of up the antics, so to speak, and state an intention mentally or externally, such as, I am love. This is called a sankalpa. Within yogic traditions, it's a Sanskrit word that means intention. So it's, basically a short phrase, like an affirmation, that connects our heart, our soul, to its deepest desire. It actually comes from two Sanskrit words. There's san, which means to become one with, and kalpa, which means time or subconscious mind. So in effect, this simple exercise that can really take no more than 30 seconds is focusing around you starting your day with an intention. And then the next part is throughout the day, anytime you feel yourself getting angry or upset or frustrated or sad, you catch yourself thinking negative thoughts, take a couple of deep breaths and repeat the sankalpa, I am love. And then before you go to sleep, repeat it one more time with your hands on your heart, taking a couple of deep breaths and just feeling into anahata, your heart center, and repeating that sankalpa, I am love. And as I said, or suggests, practice this for a week. Practice it for a fortnight. Note down how you feel. If you like doing it, practice it for a month. And again, note how you feel. Also, note how you begin to react in your own will. Are you noticing any changes when you sort of tap into that concept of love, unconditional love, and then project that back out? Because remember, reality follows our thoughts. When we come from a place of love, of a place of peace, this is what our mind will then consciously attract into our lives. And it's through the filters that our mind has that this will occur. So it's a little bit like the universal law of like attracting like. So when we believe that we are love, the concept of love, unconditional love, we're putting that energy into it. We're putting our energy into it. And then we can project that out into the torus field of the earth, into our own torus field, also in the cosmic web that is connecting all of that. Just a thought. If you would like to practice that for a week, or even just for a few days, a day, if this is new to you, just put little benchmarks in there. Let me know, put them in the comments below as to how you feel. So I hope that is something. So this video really didn't have a theme, just some thoughts that have been circulating since the new year. So take care, and breathe, and come from a place of love and peace. Blessings.